Welcome to another UK fish cam video. Recently I got my hands on this 210 litre aquarium, which is pretty much exactly 55 gallons of water. Now this is the biggest fish tank I've ever had, and it's almost as tall as me. I've even had to buy a step ladder to be able to do anything in this tank. Now what I'm doing in the video here is I'm actually setting up the substrate for the tank. I like doing the Wallstad method, which is using a natural soil to help the plants grow in the aquarium. I'm doing something called a substrate lasagna, which is where I mix different layers of substrates together. Now, what I'm going to use as my base is actually a mix between natural garden soil and gravel. That means that the plants have lots of nutrients but can also anchor themselves down. I then top that off with a layer of sand, which acts as a cap to stop those nutrients from going into the water, which could potentially harm the fish. After leveling the substrate and ensuring that there are no gaps, I'm now ready to sort out the hardscape. So here I am moving the scape around trying to find the best configuration. My main aim for this hardscape is to replicate a tree trunk sort of environment in the centre, as the tank is so tall with it being 70 centimeters. I've also selected rocks that will complement the hardscape, mostly to do with the substrate colour, and this will provide visual barriers to allow the fish to escape any tense situations that may occur. You may also see that I've added some ceramic caves to also help with this. It's essential to get all the hardscape sorted before planting, and once we've got a configuration sorted, this is when I start planting on the hardscape. The best bit about using woods is it's great for epiphytic plants. So here I am using an aquarium safe superglue to help glue some Java fern, some moss and also some Anubias to this main piece of wood. The aim is we want it to look a bit like a bush, a bit like the tree that we're going for. Now we've selected all three of these plants because they're actually happy not being in the substrate, and hopefully their roots can spread over this tree trunk and make it look a lot more naturalistic. Since I've tried a planted tank, I will never go back. I absolutely love how easy it is. It really limits the amount of water changes you need, and you can tell the fish enjoy this. The reason we've picked these different plants is for their textures as well. Whilst the Anubias will grow out and have broader leaves and make it look like the little tree we're going for, the moss and the jagged Java fern will add some different contrasting textures to make the scape look a lot better. So many different cracks and crevices in this large piece of bogwood as well. It's really letting us experiment, and I hope you're understanding the vision that I'm going for now, especially when we pan up and show this protruding piece. Now that the centerpiece of this tank is planted, let's get moving on to the rest of the tank. First of all, we're putting some Monte Carlo into the substrate just to give it a bit of a fighting chance. I don't have a lot of good experience with Monte Carlo, so I don't think this will be doing too well, but it is a carpeting plant, so fingers crossed. A little bit of water in the tank just to keep all the plants nice and hydrated and try and saturate that wood with water so then it doesn't float when we finally add the rest of the water to the tank. It also helps with the floating plants, which wouldn't be doing very well otherwise. We have a mix of water lettuce and salvinia in this tank, and try and avoid any duckweed. Next we're going to be using the Vallisneria, which is going to use some of that height in the aquarium because it grows quite tall. This is a grass-like plant that needs to be planted deep in the substrate, unlike the things we've already placed in the tank. Those roots will eventually grow deep into the soil layer and get all the nutrients they need. So what we're doing with the planting here as well, we're amplifying that hardscape we've already put in, so there's a layer of depth in the tank, so the tall things are at the back of the tank and it slowly gets shallower as you come forward. With the front therefore being the clearest area and it having better lighting because of this, this will really emphasise the front as the main viewing angle and make the scape look amazing. We're also planting some Rotala in the tank. This isn't as tall as the Vallisneria, but there's a lot of texture to it with a lot of different leaves. And hopefully by planting a lot of plants at the start, this will increase the growth at the start, which is when it matters. Also help reduce the risk of one plant dying off because we've got plenty of others to rely on. Now that we've got everything planted, let's have a look at our tiny tropical paradise. All the different plants together make this scape look amazing, and I think the hardscape really focuses your attention to the centre of the tank, whilst having plenty of areas for the fish to hide in. At first, the tank was quite cloudy because there's a lot of sediment that came up from the sand. However, this cleared with time, and you can see that the plants are getting really settled in, and you can even see this Bacopa planted here that I forgot about. If you look carefully, you can see there's actually a little bit of melting on the Rotala. That's it just getting used to the tank anyway. I'm running an Eheim canister filter on this tank, which was really good. However, at the time of recording this, I broke the case twice trying to clean it, so I had to find a replacement filter. If there's one thing you should know about keeping successful aquariums, is that they're never cheap. Despite almost being complete, I just wanted to add a little bit more plant life just to bridge the gap between these two pieces of wood. This Brazilian pennywort is the perfect plant for the job with its massive leaves, and it will spread quickly. We gave the tank a quick clean as well because it would be a lot harder to do later. After cycling the tank for 6 to 8 weeks, I think it's time to add our first inhabitants. Now, we've got to have some hardy inhabitants who are very good at cleaning up any plants that might die, so there's no better animal than the snail. And based off your votes in the community tab, we chose the rabbit snail. Now these guys are an unusual snail and are quite similar to the trumpet snail, but a lot bigger. Their long conical shells allow them to dig into the substrate, which helps reduce the chance of any anaerobic air pockets from forming in the substrate, which are bad for your fish and your plants. So as well as these guys eating any dead plant matter, they're actually the unsung heroes of the tank. We'll ignore the fact that they ate the Anubias later on. When I picked these guys up from the store, I actually learned a really cool fact. These guys reproduce in a really weird way. The white section of their shells will actually drop off and become their own individual rabbit snails. Unfortunately, there was actually trouble in paradise. As a bit of a background, I got this tank as a bundle deal on eBay, so it was pre-used. Now I think there may have been some damage to the heater because instead of the 24 degrees Celsius that it was set to, it was actually doing 28. Luckily I managed to catch this in time, otherwise this could have set us back to square one. Anyway, now that the plants have started growing in, it's time to add some fish. Our first species of fish that we're going to be adding is actually the red-eyed tetra. I have never seen these fish in an aquarium store before, but I had to have them. They're like tiny little piranhas, and whilst they don't have the colours of other tetras, they definitely make up for it with their personalities. I got 12 of these guys and they're going to patrol the middle section of the tank. Whilst they were shy at first, as soon as I started feeding them after the first couple of days, especially with the bloodworms, they were so boisterous. Often you'll see one of them pick up a bloodworm and 2 more of them will fight them for the same piece of food. I've spent hours watching these guys. Not only are they a deeper bodied tetra, but they also get over twice the size of your typical neon tetra, which in a larger tank really helps them stand out. Now over 2 months later, let's add some more plants before adding our centerpiece fish to this aquarium. The fish that I have chosen and the fish that I plan this aquarium round is the pearl gourami. So join me in giving a warm welcome to one of my favourite fish I've ever kept. This is Tango. Pearl gouramis are a species of fish that can get up to 4 to 5 inches long, which is a fairly respectable size. Tango is intended to be our main centerpiece fish for this tank. This is because, coupled with his size, his absolutely stunning looks and inquisitive nature, he will be excellent in this tank. And to top it off, as soon as he gets out of his acclimation jail, aka the plastic bag he came in, he gets on perfectly well with the rest of the fish in the aquarium. Well, as much as Tango would like me to talk about him all day, a month and a half later, we got our final fish for the aquarium. These are stir-by cories. As much as I might get a little bit of flack for saying this, and I hope they're not listening, but I imagine the cories almost as little pigs. Now, hear me out. Cories are a bottom-dwelling fish and love to rummage through stuff. They also have tiny little whiskers, known as barbels, which help them find food in the sand. As you can see, this one here finding some bloodworm. The cories that I have currently will grow to about 3 times the size and will become right little piggies. They absolutely love swimming in small shoals at night, especially because they're actually nocturnal. If you haven't been able to tell so far, we're actually layering where the fish live. So the gourami tango lives in the top layer of the tank. Then the red-eyed tetras live in the middle. And finally, the cories live on the bottom. It's important to plan how your fish will interact with each other, not just with their requirements like temperature. Now, whilst they live in different areas, they definitely interact, as you can see this red-eyed tetra stealing this food away from the cory. And not only this, but the snails also play an important role and clean up a lot of the excess fish food. Now, as of recording this video, it's been over 200 days since we've set up this tank, and every single creature is thriving. We have had some plant die off, but that's to be expected, and apart from when the cory gang get a little bit too excited and move all the sand around so I need to do it again, there's very little maintenance on this tank, which is a sign of a healthy ecosystem. I hope that I've inspired you to go out and try making your own aquatic ecosystem, and if I can't, Tango will. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.